Welcome to this mini lecture. The purpose of this video is to illustrate how to do the solution recommendation section of case study analysis by using one of the 4 problems as found in the West Indies Yacht Club and Resort case. Now, it is important to realize that generating solutions and deciding on recommendations are important steps. Managers and decision makers need to know the outcome of one's analysis. But before I talk about generating solutions, I want to summarize the problem that I will be using as an example. The problem that I will be modeling is expatriate turnover. The case informs the reader in a number of places that this problem exists. The case states that people have quit their jobs, including 3 waterfront directors and 3 food and beverage directors. Some of these people showed signs of alcoholism. Others have formed negative feelings towards working at the resort. Dave Pinkering has called the resort the Rock, a likely allusion to the famous San Francisco Island prison of the same name. Still others, like Steve Lucas, have had difficulty making friends with the local staff, preferring to keep business and pleasure separate. And Kristen Singster stated that she had made local friends, but she had trouble with the main corporate office in Chicago. Given that there is definitely a problem of expatriate turnover, now we must look for ways to solve this problem. Before coming up with solutions, I think it's useful to think about what would cause someone to quit their job. Now, I did some research under the phrase reasons people quit their jobs and found the following top 3 reasons: poor relationships, bored, unchallenged. When I looked at this list, I immediately see a number of points that remind me of things in the case. For instance, there is the problem of relationships with coworkers. As previously mentioned, Steve Lucas had trouble making friends, while Kristen Singster was in conflict with corporate headquarters. From this list and the examples from the case, I can see that the expatriate staff do have reasons for wanting to quit their jobs. Now I want to do is come up with some solutions to these problems. Now, this slide shows my general solutions: improve hiring, create a performance management program, and develop repatriation. I came up with these 3 areas because of the research I did. By using the phrase expatriate turnover, I learned that businesses really have a problem with this. In fact, there is a whole area of business dedicated to this kind of thing. It is called International Human Resource Management. And they list 3 areas that overseas businesses need to develop. The first is performance management. The research states that employers need to choose people who either have cross-cultural experience or have been evaluated to be suitable for this task. Human resource people need to consider psychological and social factors, including the ability to adapt and openness, emotional stability, desire to serve overseas, understanding of the host and one's own country, spouse and family stability. The second area is evaluation. Businesses need to have clear goals, and expatriates should be chosen with regards to these goals. Moreover, expatriates need to feel connected to their host country, often through mentoring relationships. Ongoing support needs to be made available in order to minimize the problem of culture shock, the stress that many expatriates experience, which typically involve anxiety, confusion, disruption, helplessness, and irritability. And the third is repatriation. Returning expatriates have a great deal of knowledge to share and transfer back to the sending company. Harnessing this resource is often not implemented, and it may influence expatriates' emotional connection to the company. Now that I have some solutions, I need to evaluate them. And a question-answer format helped me with this. Question 1, why is it necessary to improve on the expatriate selection process? Well, it seems to be a common practice to ignore cross-cultural experience when hiring people for the resort. For example, Steve Lucas had no previous experience working outside the United States. He was chosen solely based on his knowledge and experience of the job. Even Jim Johnson, the general manager, was hired based on his extensive hospitality experience and academic training. Question 2. How would creating an ongoing expatriate performance management program be beneficial? There are a number of areas in which the resort has hindered expatriate performance. First, there is a lack of emotional psychological support. People like Kristen Singster are able to connect with their employees but feel frustrated with corporate headquarters. These feelings need to be addressed if the resort wishes to support this valuable employee. Also, as we learned earlier, there are also few opportunities for the expatriates to enjoy themselves apart from the resort itself. People often go drinking at the Saba Rock Bar. All of this suggests that there is a serious lack of either healthy amusements or psychological development. There's a lack of ongoing professional development. The case states that, quote, Harrington assumed the responsibilities as water sports director and was well respected by the staff as well, but found he had difficulty assigning tasks and managing the operation, unquote. As we can see, nothing was done to help Harrington to fulfill his new duties. Finally, there is a lack of educational opportunities and family support. Nick Smith has a wife and child, but he may be like Jim Johnson and move his family back to the USA to seek better educational opportunities. Question 3. Why is developing a practice of repatriation needed? Well, there's a serious lack of knowledge transfer. In the case, we learned that Bill Johnson had performed really well as the waterfront director, but his knowledge remained with him when he left the company to return to Canada. There is no evidence that the experience of current or former employees is being retained in the company. In order to make recommendations, 2 guiding principles need to be considered. One is cost. Businesses need to keep their costs down so as to maximize profits. Similarly, time is another factor. Implementing recommendations is often difficult and time-consuming. Hours spent on particular programs are likely to cost the company money. So given this context and the previously discussed research, the short-term recommendation is to implement a modified expatriate performance program. One that covers cross-cultural training within the context of the BVI, one that builds on the expatriate's current knowledge, and one that clarifies any misunderstanding. Basic psychological counseling should be provided so as to nurture the emotional needs of current hires. This aspect of the program would focus on how to resolve and minimize the effects of culture shock. Culturally specific management techniques would also be introduced so that the expatriate managers could understand how their personal management styles hinder or encourage positive motivation with the BVI culture. Now, this expatriate program would continue beyond the short term and need at least 1 year to realize its full effect and change the overall work culture. Following the Christmas season, workshops which allow the expatriate managers to share their frustrations and successes would be used and act as measurement tool for assessing the outcome of the program. In addition, interviews or surveys with the local staff and select visitors would also supply a way to evaluate the program. It is also recommended that the long-term hiring process or human resources be informed of the need to have a comprehensive expatriate selection process that includes cross-cultural training. Finally, a system of repatriation needs to be put in place so as to improve the knowledge transfer of the company. To clarify once again, in order to maximize the problem of expatriate turnover at the resort, it is recommended that an expatriate performance program be implemented. One which focuses on the emotional, psychological needs of the managers so as to reduce the effect of culture shock. This program would begin immediately so as to prepare managers for the Christmas season and carry on throughout the coming year. So this concludes this presentation.